Commander Vex 9 tapped his 4 digits against the polished surface of the observation deck console. 3 pairs of yellow eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the bizarre creature standing in the testing chamber below. The human. Always the humans causing problems. Run the statistics by me again, Vex 9 said, not bothering to hide the irritation in his voice. And please, Technician Lore, try to make sense this time. Technician Lore, a slender Arthaxian with pale blue skin that seemed perpetually moist, nervously adjusted her atmosphere regulator. Yes, Commander. The human recruit, Jackson West, has completed all preliminary tests with unprecedented results. Precedented, Vex 9 repeated, drawing out each syllable like it was a particularly unpleasant taste. That word seems to follow these humans wherever they go. Senior biologist Draz, the oldest of the 3 aliens observing the human, gave what passed for a laugh among his species, a strange whistling sound through his nasal cavities. You must admit, Commander, they are fascinating specimens. Especially this one. Below them, completely unaware of their conversation, the human male paced the circular chamber. He was tall by human standards, though still shorter than the average Galactic Alliance species, with a muscular build that suggested regular physical conditioning. His skin was a medium brown tone, his head covered with short, dark curls. Every few seconds he would bounce slightly on his toes, as if testing the gravity. Fascinating is not the word I would use, Commander Vex 9 muttered. Disruptive. Unpredictable. Potentially dangerous. The Alliance Council voted unanimously to allow human integration, Technician Lore reminded him gently. Politicians, Vex 9 spat. They see only potential resources, not potential threats. Speaking of potential, Draz interjected, shall we begin the gravity tests? The human appears ready. Commander Vex 9 flicked a hand dismissively. Proceed. Standard protocol. Begin at 1.2 times Earth gravity and increase incrementally. The Technician Lore leaned toward the communication panel. Recruit West, we will now begin gravity testing. We will start at 1.2 Earth standard and increase gradually. Please inform us immediately if you experience any discomfort. The human looked up toward the observation window and gave a thumbs-up gesture. His voice came through the speakers with that strange, flat resonance all human voices seem to have. Ready when you are. Technician Lore adjusted the controls, and the gravity field in the chamber increased. The monitoring equipment showed an immediate spike in the human's heart rate and blood pressure, then a rapid adjustment back to near baseline levels. 1.2 Earth gravity achieved, Lore announced. Subject appears to be adjusting normally. HMP, Commander Vex 9 grunted. Hardly impressive. Most species can handle up to 1.3 without significant strain. Yes, Commander, Lore agreed, but humans evolved on a planet with relatively light gravity compared to most Alliance homeworlds. Even Arthaxians like myself come from a world with 1.4 Earth gravity. Move to 1.5, Vex 9 ordered. Below them, the human continued to move around the chamber, now performing what appeared to be stretching exercises. As the gravity increased, his movements became slightly more deliberate, but he showed no signs of distress. 1.5 achieved, Lore reported. Subject's vital signs remain within acceptable parameters. Interesting, Draz murmured, his eyes fixed on the biological readings. His muscle fiber response is unusual. He's adapting at the cellular level more quickly than our models predicted. Continue, Vex 9 said, leaning forward slightly despite himself. As they increased the gravity to 1.7, then 1.8 Earth standard, the human's movements became more labored. Sweat began to bead on his forehead and arms, but his expression remained determined. He should be struggling significantly at this point, Draz noted with evident surprise. Most species without specific gravitational adaptations would be experiencing severe discomfort. Humans, Commander Vex 9 said, as if the word itself was an explanation. Their homeworld's gravity might be light, but they have evolved with unusually dense musculature and robust skeletal structures. Warlike tendencies. Commander, Lore interrupted. The human is requesting to communicate. Vex 9 nodded. Put him through. Hey up there, the human called, his voice noticeably strained but surprisingly cheerful. Just wondering, what's the current setting? 1.8 Earth standard gravity, Lore replied. The human grinned, an expression that still unnerved Vex 9 with its display of teeth. That all? Come on, I was hoping for a challenge today. Commander Vex 9's eye ridges rose in surprise. Is he mocking us? I believe he's employing humor, Draz suggested. Humans often use it during stress situations. Increased to 2 Earth standard, Vex 9 ordered, a hint of challenge in his voice. As the gravity field intensified, the human's posture changed noticeably. His knees bent slightly, his back straightened, and his breathing became more measured. He was clearly feeling the strain now, but instead of showing distress, his face displayed an expression the aliens had come to recognize as determination. 2 Earth standard gravity achieved, Lore announced. Subject's heart rate elevated, blood pressure increased, but still within safe parameters. Commander, Draz said quietly, I believe this test has served its purpose. We have established the human can function in increased gravity environments, which will make him suitable for assignments on higher gravity worlds. No, Vex 9 replied, his voice hardening. I want to see his limits. Humans have been nothing but trouble since they joined the Alliance. Always pushing boundaries, ignoring protocols, acting like they belong among species that have been spacefaring for millennia. Commander, Lore protested, the testing protocols. I am well aware of the protocols, Technician, Vex 9 snapped. This is not merely about testing. This is about understanding a potential threat. Below them, the human had stopped moving. He stood in the center of the chamber, legs spread in a stable stance, arms crossed over his chest. He looked directly up at the observation window. Hey, is there some kind of problem up there? He called out. We still doing this or what? Vex 9 leaned forward and pressed the communication button himself. Recruit West, we are discussing the appropriate continuation of your test. The human's lips quirked in what the aliens recognized as a smirk. Well, while you are discussing, how about cranking up the gravity a bit more? This is starting to feel like a light workout. Commander Vex 9 felt a surge of irritation. You are currently experiencing twice the gravity of your homeworld, human. Perhaps you don't understand the significance of that. The human shrugged, a gesture that seemed even more insolent under double gravity. I understand I'm standing here talking while you guys are having a committee meeting about whether I can handle more. I can. So make it 3. 3? Lore gasped. Commander, no human has ever been tested at 3 times Earth gravity. The medical implications are precisely what we need to understand, Vex 9 finished for her. He fixed his gaze on the human below. Very well, Recruit West. You wish to test your limits. So do I. Commander, Draz warned. I must formally register my objection. This goes beyond standard testing parameters. Noted. Vex 9 said dismissively. Technician Lore increased gravity to 2.5 Earth standard. Lore hesitated, then reluctantly adjusted the controls. Below them, the effect on the human was immediate and dramatic. His body visibly sank lower, his posture adjusting to accommodate the crushing increase. For a moment he seemed to struggle, his face contorting with effort. Vital signs spiking, Draz reported, concern evident in his voice. Heart rate approaching dangerous levels. But then something remarkable happened. The human closed his eyes, took several deep breaths, and slowly, deliberately straightened his posture. When he opened his eyes again, there was something new there, a fierce intensity that even Commander Vex 9 found unsettling. Subject is stabilizing, Lore said, disbelief evident in her voice. How is this possible? Their species evolved as persistence hunters, Draz muttered, almost to himself. Extraordinary cardiovascular recovery capabilities. The human's voice came through the speakers again, now noticeably strained but still coherent. That's more like it. But I said, 3. Don't hold back on me now. Commander, Lore pleaded, this is becoming dangerous. The human skeletal structure could begin to collapse under such pressure. Vex-9 waved away her concern. He requested it. "And I want to see what happens." He paused, then added, "but increase gradually. 2.7 first." As the gravity increased again, the human's legs trembled visibly. He slowly lowered himself to one knee, then placed one hand on the floor for support. His breathing had become labored, each intake of air clearly requiring significant effort. A bone density scan shows stress microfractures beginning to form, Draz reported, his voice tight with concern. "Commander, we must stop this now." But before Vex-9 could respond, the human did something none of them expected. He laughed. It was a strained, gasping sound, but unmistakably a laugh. "Is this all you have got?" He called up, each word clearly costing him considerable effort. "My drill sergeant, back on Earth, would be disappointed." "Fascinating," Draz whispered. Even under extreme physical stress, he maintains psychological resistance. Commander Vex-9 felt a confusing mixture of irritation and reluctant admiration. "Increased to 3 Earth gravity," he ordered. "Let's give him exactly what he asked for, Commander." Both Lore and Draz protested simultaneously. "Do it," Vex-9 insisted. "But be prepared to terminate immediately if his vital signs approach critical levels." Technician Lore, her hands trembling slightly, made the final adjustment. In the chamber below, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The human collapsed fully to his hands and knees, his entire body shaking with the effort of supporting itself against the crushing pressure. His breathing became shallow, rapid gasps, and the monitors showed his heart racing dangerously fast. "He's approaching system failure," Draz warned, his fingers flying over the medical console. "Oxygen saturation dropping, blood pressure critically high." "Terminate the test," Lore urged. "Commander, please." But Vex-9 held up a hand, his eyes fixed on the human below. "Wait!" Jackson West, recruit of the Galactic Alliance, pressed his forehead to the floor of the testing chamber, his entire body seemingly crushed by the weight of 3 times his natural gravity. But for several long seconds he remained motionless except for the desperate heaving of his chest as he fought for breath. Then, slowly, impossibly, he began to move. First one hand, planted firmly on the floor. Then a foot, sliding forward to brace himself. His arms shook violently with the effort, muscles straining visibly through his testing suit. With agonizing slowness, he pushed himself up to a kneeling position. "Impossible," Draz breathed. The physiological stress should have rendered him unconscious by now. The human raised his head, looking directly at the observation window. His face was contorted with effort, veins standing out on his forehead and neck, sweat pouring down his skin in rivulets. But his eyes burned with something the aliens found difficult to interpret. Determination? Defiance? Perhaps even enjoyment? With a grunt of effort that was clearly audible through the speakers, Jackson West began to stand. The process was slow, excruciating to watch. Every centimeter gained seemed to cost him enormously, his body fighting against a force designed to crush it. But he continued, inch by painful inch, until finally impossibly he stood upright in the 3 gravity field. And then, most shocking of all, he smiled. 3 Earth gravity, he gasped out, barely audible even through the sensitive microphones. Piece of cake. Commander Vex-9 stared in disbelief. "End test," he ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Return to normal gravity. Immediately." As the gravity field dissipated, the human staggered slightly, then caught himself. His breathing gradually returned to normal, and the medical monitors showed his vital signs stabilizing with remarkable speed. "Get a medical team down there," Draz ordered Technician Lore, who rushed to comply. "No need," the human called up, rolling his shoulders and stretching his neck. "I'm fine, just give me a minute." "Fine?" Commander Vex-9 repeated incredulously. "You were just subjected to 3 times your natural gravity. Your skeletal structure should be showing significant damage." The human grinned again, that disconcerting display of teeth. Yeah, well, there's a lot about humans you guys don't know yet. He paused, then added with unmistakable pride, we are full of surprises. Indeed, Vex 9 murmured, a new wariness in his voice as he studied the remarkable creature below. Draz approached the commander, speaking quietly. This changes everything we thought we knew about human physiological capabilities. If they can adapt this quickly to extreme gravity, then what else might they be capable of? Vex 9 finished for him, a chill running through his exoskeleton at the implications. In the testing chamber, Jackson West stretched his arms above his head, apparently already recovering from an ordeal that would have killed most species. He looked up at the observation window and gave another thumbs-up gesture. So his voice came through the speakers, sounding almost casual now. What's next? What's next? The human's question hung in the air like a challenge. Commander Vex 9 flicked his upper mandibles in what his species considered a scowl. Technician lore. Prepare the combat simulation chamber. Senior biologist Draz, I want a complete biometric analysis of the human before and after this demonstration. Combat simulation? Draz questioned, his voice lowered. Commander, after what we have just witnessed, perhaps we should allow Recruit West recovery time. Vex 9 turned all 6 eyes toward the biologist. You saw what I saw. This human just withstood forces that would cripple most Alliance species. I want to know what else he's capable of. Technician Lore hesitantly raised a digit. Sir, Alliance protocols suggest a minimum 12-hour recovery period after extreme gravity testing. Protocols, Vex 9 practically spat the word. Since when have humans concerned themselves with our protocols? No, we continue testing. Down in the chamber, Jackson West was performing what appeared to be stretching exercises, seemingly oblivious to the debate his performance had sparked. His movements were fluid again, showing almost no sign of the crushing pressure he'd endured minutes earlier. Commander, Draz tried again. At least allow me to conduct a thorough medical examination first. Vex 9 waved a dismissive hand. Fine, 20 minutes. Then we proceed. Jackson West sat on an examination table designed for species with significantly different anatomy, making him look vaguely ridiculous. His legs dangled over the edge while biologist Draz ran a series of scanning devices over his body. Remarkable, Draz muttered, more to himself than to the human. Simply remarkable. Thanks, I think, Jackson replied with a grin. Mind telling me what's so remarkable? Besides my charming personality, of course. Draz blinked all 4 of his eyes in sequence, a gesture that indicated mild confusion. Your skeletal structure should show significant microfractures after exposure to triple Earth gravity. Instead, I'm seeing evidence of strengthening. Jackson shrugged. We adapt. It's kind of our thing. Adapt, Draz repeated slowly. Within minutes. That defies biological principles. But look, Doc, can I call you Doc? Humans come from a planet where everything was trying to kill us for a couple million years. We got good at not dying. Draz's breathing sacs expanded slightly, a sign of excitement in his species. But the physiological responses I'm recording, they are beyond adaptation. Your bones appear to be actively remodeling themselves at an accelerated rate. Your muscle tissue is showing increased density. Even your cardiovascular system has already compensated for the stress. Neat, Jackson said, examining his fingernails with exaggerated nonchalance. So am I good to go? Your commander seemed pretty eager for round 2. Draz hesitated. Medically, I can find no reason to prohibit continued testing. However, I must advise caution. We still don't understand the long-term effects of. Great. Let's do this, Jackson interrupted, hopping off the table with an enthusiasm that made Draz's skin color shift slightly in alarm. Commander Vex 9 watched through the observation window as Jackson West entered the combat simulation chamber. It was a large, circular room with a high ceiling, its walls lined with various technological implements designed to create realistic holographic opponents and environments. Explain the parameters again, Vex 9 demanded, not taking his eyes off the human. Lieutenant Cragg, the Alliance military advisor who had joined them for this phase of testing, straightened his armored exoskeleton. Standard multi-environment combat assessment, Commander. We begin with basic terrestrial combat scenarios, then move to low-gravity, aquatic, and atmospheric variations. And the opponents? Holographic simulations based on known hostile species from unaligned worlds, Cragg replied. They will increase in difficulty as the human progresses. Vex 9 considered this for a moment. It doubled the difficulty scaling. Cragg's head spines twitched in surprise. Sir, that would quickly exceed the parameters established for new recruits. Did you not witness the gravity test, Lieutenant? Vex 9 asked coldly. This is no ordinary recruit. Very well, Commander, Cragg relented, adjusting the controls. Though I must note my reservation in the official record. Noted, Vex 9 said dismissively. Begin the simulation. Below them, the chamber's environment shifted, the blank walls dissolving into a rocky, barren landscape. Jackson West stood in the center, now dressed in standard Alliance combat attire, a flexible bodysuit designed to adapt to various environmental conditions. Recruit West, Cragg announced through the communication system, this exercise will test your combat proficiency in multiple environments against various opponents. The difficulty will increase progressively. Your objective is simple: survive. The human rolled his shoulders and bounced lightly on his toes. Sounds fun. Any rules I should know about? The simulation will end if you would sustain injuries that would be fatal in real combat, Cragg explained. The holographic opponents cannot cause actual physical harm, but sensors in your suit will register damage. Got it. Fake fighting, real scoring, Jackson said with a nod. Let's rock and roll. Vex 9 leaned toward technician Lore. Rock and roll? Human idiom, Lore explained quietly. It means... I don't actually care, Vex 9 interrupted. Lieutenant, commenced the first scenario. In the chamber below, 3 holographic figures materialized humanoid in general shape, but with distinctive reptilian features. They carried primitive but effective-looking weapons: a spear, a curved blade, and what appeared to be some sort of projectile launcher. Saurians, Cragg explained. A pre-spaceflight species known for their aggressive territorial behavior. Jackson West assessed his opponents with a quick glance, then assumed what the observers recognized as a combat stance. His expression had changed, the casual humor replaced by focused intensity. The simulated Saurians attacked in coordinated fashion, the spear wielder charging directly while the others moved to flank. Jackson waited until the last possible moment before moving, his reaction speed catching even Vex 9 by surprise. He sidestepped the spear thrust, grabbing the weapon's shaft and using the attacker's momentum to send the holographic creature tumbling forward. In the same fluid motion, he swung the captured spear to block the blade wielder's attack. Impressive reaction time, Cragg noted, making an entry in his data pad. The skirmish continued for several minutes, the human displaying combat techniques that seemed both instinctive and calculated. He used the environment to his advantage, at one point leaping onto a boulder to gain higher ground. His movements were economical, precise, and devastatingly effective. When the last simulated opponent fell, Jackson stood in the center of the chamber, breathing slightly elevated but otherwise showing no signs of exertion. Basic terrestrial combat assessment complete, Cragg announced. Performance rating, exceptional. Thanks, Jackson called up to the observation window. Those guys weren't bad. Little predictable, though. X9's mandibles clicked in irritation. Increased difficulty by factor 4, and changed the environment. The chamber shimmered, and the rocky landscape was replaced by a dense jungle setting. The gravity suddenly dropped to approximately half of Earth standard, causing Jackson to momentarily float before adjusting his stance. Low-gravity jungle environment, Cragg explained unnecessarily. Opponents will be. He was interrupted by the appearance of 6 new holographic figures, these ones less humanoid segmented bodies with multiple limbs ending in sharp, curved appendages. Arachnids, Draz identified, his tone concerned. Commander, this is a significant escalation. Most recruits don't face Arachnid simulations until advanced training. Most recruits aren't humans who smile at triple gravity, Vex 9 replied flatly. Below them, Jackson West was already adapting to the low gravity, using short, controlled movements rather than his previous fluid style. The Arachnids were fast, capable of leaping great distances in the reduced gravity, but the humans seemed to anticipate their attack patterns. What happened next astonished even Commander Vex 9. Instead of fighting defensively, Jackson launched himself into the air, using the low gravity to execute a maneuver that would have been impossible on Earth. He caught a tree branch, swung completely around it, and landed directly on one of the Arachnids, disabling it instantly. He's playing with the environment, Crag observed, unable to keep the admiration from his voice. Most species struggle with gravity transitions. He's exploiting it. The combat continued, with Jackson using increasingly creative tactics. He would leap high into the air, allowing the Arachnids to follow, then change direction mid-air, a maneuver that the simulation hadn't been programmed to anticipate. When the last Arachnid fell, Jackson landed in a crouch, a thin sheen of sweat now visible on his face. He looked up at the observation window and grinned. Now that was fun, he called. The bouncy guys were a nice touch. Vex 9 stared down at the human, a cold feeling spreading through his exoskeleton. Lieutenant Crag, aquatic environment, maximum difficulty. Commander, Draz protested. We haven't even confirmed if humans can. They are semi-aquatic, Vex 9 cut him off. I have studied their physiology. The chamber transformed again, this time filling rapidly with holographic water. Jackson West, caught by surprise for the first time, took a deep breath just before being completely submerged. The water was an illusion, but the chamber's atmospheric controls altered the air density and resistance to simulate aquatic conditions. To Jackson, it would feel almost exactly like being underwater, though he could still breathe normally. Introducing opponents, Crag announced, and sleek, predatory forms appeared in the simulated depths. Merlinians, Draz identified. A fully aquatic sentient species. Commander, this is beyond unreasonable. But Vex 9 wasn't listening. His attention was fixed on the human, who was now swimming with powerful strokes, adjusting quickly to the simulated underwater environment. The Merlinian holograms converged on Jackson from all directions. They were natural underwater predators, their movements swift and precise. For a moment it seemed the human would be overwhelmed. Then Jackson stopped swimming and went completely still. The Merlinians circled, confused by the sudden change in behavior. The human's eyes tracked their movements, his body rotating slowly in place. What is he doing? Lore wondered aloud. The answer came a moment later when Jackson suddenly exploded into action. Instead of trying to match the Merlinians' speed, he used their momentum against them, grabbing one as it passed and using it as a shield against another's attack. In the simulated water, his movements were slower but no less deliberate. He's adapting his combat style to the environment, Crag noted, genuine respect in his voice now. Minimizing movement, maximizing efficiency. One by one, the Merlinians were dispatched until only Jackson remained, floating in the center of the chamber. The water simulation dissolved, leaving him standing on the floor, his clothing and hair appearing dry despite the realistic simulation. Aquatic combat assessment complete, Crag announced. Performance rating, unprecedented. Jackson looked up at the observation window, his expression no longer playful. Is this a test, or are you trying to prove something, Commander? Vex 9 leaned forward and pressed the communication button. Both human. Final scenario. Atmospheric combat. The chamber transformed one last time, creating the illusion of a vast, open sky. Gravitational controls adjusted to simulate free fall, and Jackson West found himself falling through open air. Aerial predators incoming, Crag announced as winged shapes appeared in the distance, rapidly approaching. Vralic hunting flock, Draz identified. Commander, this has gone far enough. No humanoid species without natural flight capability could possibly. Look, Lore interrupted, pointing at the human. Jackson West had oriented himself into a spread eagle position, maximizing air resistance to control his fall. As the first of the winged predators reached him, he twisted with startling precision, grabbing its wing and using the creature's momentum to change his own trajectory. What followed was a display of aerial combat that none of the observers had thought possible for a species without wings. Jackson used the Vroleks themselves as anchors, swinging from one to another, redirecting their attacks to collide with each other. "Impossible," Vex-9 whispered, genuine awe in his voice for the first time. When the last Vrolek was defeated, the simulation ended abruptly. Jackson West landed lightly on his feet as normal gravity was restored, breathing heavily but standing tall. "Combat assessment complete," Cragg announced. "All scenarios successful. Final rating beyond Alliance classification standards." There was silence in the observation room for several long moments. Finally, Commander Vex-9 spoke. "Bring him here." Jackson West entered the observation room, his posture relaxed but alert. He surveyed the assembled aliens with curious eyes, paying particular attention to Commander Vex-9. "So," he said casually, "did I pass?" Vex-9 studied the human silently for a moment before responding. "You exceeded every parameter we established, by significant margins." "Thanks, I think." "It wasn't a compliment," Vex-9 clarified. "It was an observation. And a concerning one." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Concerning? Because I'm good at what I do? Because your species was admitted to the Alliance based on certain assumptions about your capabilities," Vex-9 replied coldly. "Assumptions that appear to have been drastically underestimated." "Ah," Jackson nodded, understanding dawning on his face. "You are afraid of us." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Technician Lore and biologist Draz exchanged nervous glances. Lieutenant Cragg shifted almost imperceptibly into a more defensive stance. Commander Vex-9's voice was dangerously quiet when he spoke. "We are not afraid, human. We are cautious. There is a difference." Jackson West smiled, not the challenging grin from earlier, but something softer, almost sympathetic. "With respect, Commander, I have seen that look before. Back on Earth, we had a saying, it's not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It's the one most adaptable to change." "Darwin," Draz said suddenly. When the others looked at him, he added, "I have studied Earth scientific literature. Charles Darwin, 19th century human biologist." "That's right," Jackson nodded. "And humans? We are really good at adapting." He gestured toward the testing chamber visible through the window. "That's what you just saw. Not strength, not intelligence. Adaptation." Vex-9 considered this. And should the Alliance be concerned about how humans might adapt to interstellar politics? To advanced technologies? To power? For the first time, Jackson West's expression became completely serious. "That's a fair question. But let me ask you something, Commander. In all those tests, what did I actually do?" "You survived," Vex-9 answered immediately. "Exactly," Jackson said, nodding. "I didn't conquer. I didn't destroy. I survived. That's what humans do best." He took a step closer to the alien commander. "Yes, we can endure 3 times our gravity. Yes, we can fight in environments we weren't born to. Yes, we adapt faster than you think we should be able to. But throughout our history, our greatest achievements didn't come from our ability to fight, they came from our ability to cooperate." He looked around at each of the aliens in turn. "We didn't join the Alliance to conquer it. We joined because we finally figured out that survival isn't just about being the toughest. It's about being part of something bigger." A long silence followed his words. Finally, Lieutenant Cragg spoke. "Commander, I believe Recruit West has demonstrated exceptional potential for the Galactic Alliance Defense Force. I recommend immediate acceptance and accelerated training for specialized deployment." Vex-9's mandibles clicked softly as he considered. Then, to everyone's surprise, he extended a hand toward Jackson, a distinctly human gesture. "Welcome to the Alliance Defense Force, Specialist West." Jackson took the offered hand and shook it firmly. "Thank you, Commander. I promise you won't regret it." "That," Commander Vex-9 replied, "remains to be seen." But there was a new note in his voice, not quite respect, not quite acceptance, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. As Jackson West left the room, escorted by Lieutenant Cragg to begin his official processing, biologist Draz moved to stand beside Commander Vex-9. "What do you think, Commander?" "About humans in the Alliance." Vex-9 watched the human's retreating form through the doorway. "I think, Draz, that the galaxy just became a much more interesting place." Outside in the corridor, Jackson West smiled to himself. 3 times Earth gravity had been tough, but he'd managed. And that was just the beginning. The Alliance had no idea what humanity was truly capable of, but they were about to find out.